My name is Kayla Bartsch, and I'm a teaching assistant for the Hudson Institute Political Studies Summer Fellowship. And here with me today is Janet Dougherty, a tutor at St. John's College in Santa Fe and Annapolis, and she's a teacher in the final week of the Political Studies program. Today we will be discussing her lecture on Cyropaedia, titled The Limits of Political Excellence. So if you could just start us off, Ms. Dougherty, on what is the Cyropaedia? What is the project of this work by Xenophon?
So the Cyropaedia is an account of the rise to power of Cyrus the Great, a highly fictionalized account of the rise to power, of his rise to power. Cyrus displays enormous virtues. Xenophon marvels at his knowledge of how to rule humans. He starts with an army that's too small and has inadequate resources. He manages to acquire masses of willing subjects and a much larger army. Many people join with him, some of them powerful people for various reasons, but usually they admire his leadership. And so it's in some ways a celebration of Cyrus's excellence, his political excellence. But it seems to me it also points to the limits of not just Cyrus's political excellence, but maybe to political excellence simply. There's an encounter with Croesus, who has been chosen by the Assyrians and their allies, the enemies of Cyrus and the Persian army that he leads. Cyrus conquers Croesus, but in the dialogue that occurs between them, it's pretty clear, to me at least, that Croesus is an unwilling subject who finds that he must defer to Cyrus, not so much in admiration of him, but simply in order to preserve his life and what's left of his nation, the Lydians. And they're thoroughly emasculated by Cyrus's treatment of them. They're deprived of the ability to defend themselves unless they're willing to fight with him. So that and the love stories that are interjected into the book, it seems to me, point to the fact that Cyrus recognizes nothing beyond him, nothing worthy of devotion, nothing higher than his political success, and it seems to me his rule does not allow for the aspirations, the highest aspirations of human beings towards the good.
Yeah, that's something I do want to ask you more about. Something in this work by Xenophon that seems pretty unique is that he spends so much time analyzing the education of Cyrus alongside his triumphs as a political ruler. According to Xenophon, would he say that right education necessarily instills the quality of leadership in the student? Was Cyrus made a great leader through his education, or did his own qualities of character make him an excellent student?
Well, it's both. Cyrus, first of all, the education in Persia is extremely different from the education he experiences in Media, however you pronounce that. There's great discipline in the Persian education and deference to authority, deference to the laws. In Media, where he goes with his mother to see his grandfather at age 12, he's exposed to a very hierarchical system. The Median ruler owes allegiance to nothing beyond his own whims. Cyrus there devotes himself to horsemanship it's not practiced in Persia. Um, he wants to excel in everything that looks to him worthy of excellent endeavor, and but he becomes, it seems to me, very uh, concerned with rank, with superiority. But Cyrus, it seems to me, is extraordinary in the ability to excel by Persian standards and also by Median standards. He goes back at 16 or something, I don't know. He goes back several years later and excels um, among the Persians as well. His mother is very worried that he's not going to be able to adjust after um, adapting to Median ways, but that's not true. And it seems to me what characterizes Cyrus throughout all of this is the burning desire to be best at everything and extraordinary abilities, physical, mental, emotional, that allow him to do that.
Yes, I think some of our alumni could relate to those desires, which leads into my next question. Is that Cyrus is clearly so driven to be this great leader. Mm-hmm. Is there a tension between his scholarly pursuits, between his education and his political career? It seems that Cyrus views the former only for the latter. Do you think that shows the tensions between theory and practice for our students?
I don't think Cyrus's education is scholarly. I mean, or bookish at all. It's primarily practice. But then it seems to me philosophical inquiry is also a practice, not so. There's no evidence that Cyrus is applying some kinds of theories or has a theory of ruling. He seems to be able to respond to particular situations. He's very spirited, and sometimes he acts spontaneously, but he seems to be able to perceive what's needed in a particular situation, and he's so disciplined that that he's capable of doing whatever's needed. He so I mean, I don't think it says a lot about the relationship between theory and practice, but it does seem to me that the kind of inquiry that the study of books um, helps to develop, it has to do with recognizing that that one doesn't understand something, learning to seeing that one's own ideas are inadequate and questioning them, and seeking to understand something that one has not yet thought through. You know, I think if you really learn things from books, it's because you recognize that the author has thought more thoroughly about matters of great concern to you, and you want to understand what the author has discerned. And that means that you're seeking to adapt your own thinking to something outside of you, something beyond you, and maybe even pointing to something worthy of reverence, worthy of devotion. Cyrus does none of that.
And that seems to be perhaps his greatest flaw. And that's part of your lecture that I found especially interesting was on Eros and the science of ruling. And you remark that Cyrus rejected beauty as a distraction from this virtuous hard work of ruling. And yet after his death, the Persian people do not revere him as a hero because you say that Cyrus seems unlovable and he does not love. Is it important that our leaders be lovable? It seems like this lack of Cyrus, that he didn't pursue those intellectual ends, perhaps that those more human things, was ultimately what caused him to suffer as a leader.
Well, I'm not sure how much he suffers. I mean, I want to be careful about this. He becomes an Oriental despot at the end. I mean, he's wearing makeup and high heels and hiding in his palace, trying to look like a god when he's out in public, but hiding in his palace behind a guard of eunuchs. He uses his people as spies. I mean, it's a little chilling. He also acts in such a way as to break up friendships. He wants the people who are friends and perhaps virtuous enough to resist him to look to him as the benefactor, have each of them look to him so that they care more about him than about their friends. So and he's successful in that. So I don't he wants very much for his sons to carry on his form of rule. They fight with one another right after he dies, and one of them kills the other, I think. And Xenophon talks about how the Persians decline and become corrupt after him. Now, one might say, well, that just shows that there's nobody as good as he. It's not, I don't think he fails politically. It may be that once you rule as vast an empire as he has conquered, there is no alternative but to rule despotically. He does acknowledge, though, that the Babylonians, unlike some of the other subject cities, really do not want, they do not welcome his rule, and that's a problem. So it seems to me the limits that I'm referring to don't manifest themselves as a political failing unless it's a political failing that his sons can't continue his rule. But it does seem to me that Xenophon shows us some very distasteful characteristics of Cyrus. When he gazes at the dead animals that he's killed in the hunt as a teenager or preteen, whatever he is, he has trouble tearing himself away. That's the only time we see him really drawn to something that that moves him. He avoids Panthea, the beautiful woman who's taken as his prize. And one might say, okay, that shows that he has enormous discipline. He won't let himself be distracted from something he deems more important. But it seems to me it also it is correlated with his determination that there is no standard that he has to obey. The laws he makes are the standard of justice. He tells his troops, "Don't worry. Don't think that we're doing anything unjust by taking everything from the people that we've conquered. That's what happens always and everywhere. The conquered get everything, and if you give them anything, that's something they should be grateful for. That's generous." And the other indication, it seems to me, that there's something suspect about Cyrus's regime is the death of a teacher of one of his followers, a guy named Tigranes. Tigranes is son of a ruler whom Cyrus conquers very early on, and or brings into subjection. It doesn't take any fighting. And Tigranes had a teacher who very strongly resembled Socrates. Tigranes' father killed that teacher because he was envious of him. He felt that he was taking Tigranes' respect away from himself. And Cyrus's response to that happened before the encounter with Cyrus, but Cyrus's response is, well, that's a human error. No one wants someone, anyone envies someone who is honored more than he. And Cyrus's solution to that is not to permit there to be anyone who's honored more than he. And he achieves that by being better than everyone at everything that he considers important. But that does not include inquiry into the good, and especially, at least if it requires challenging one's own presuppositions or the conventions that are established in his regime. So I think that teacher of Tigranes is a pointer towards Socrates, and there's no room for Socrates in Cyrus's regime.
Thank you. For our students who might be approaching Xenophon for the first time, would you have any advice for them on how to read Xenophon?
I think if you've never read Xenophon before, the Cyropaedia is the place to start. It's a great story, and it's charmingly written. It's very accessible. Xenophon's Anabasis is also very readable, but I think more complex, more obviously complex. Xenophon's Socratic writings are harder, and so it seems to me, start with the Cyropaedia. That's the only advice I need to give.
Thank you, Ms. Dougherty, for your time with us. And for more conversations like these, they'll take place in the 6th week of the Political Studies program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Luca Fermento, an alumnus of Hudson Institute Political Studies 2022 Summer Fellowship. To learn more about Hudson Institute Political Studies, please visit our website. For more conversations like these, don't forget to subscribe.